Before you begin this journey, I must warn you. This isn't a feel-good video. This isn't a motivational pep talk that flatters your wounds. This is the quiet storm that rips the illusions from your mind. If you're looking for comfort, turn back now. But if you're searching for truth, raw truth, the kind that hurts before it heals, then stay. Sit with it. Let it work on you like fire works on iron. Because most of the pain you carry isn't from life itself. It's from your resistance to the truths life keeps whispering to you. You ignore them. You avoid them. You numb yourself from them. But Stoicism? It brings them to the surface. It doesn't offer escape. It offers awareness. Awareness of yourself. Awareness of the world. Awareness of the very chains you don't even realize you're wearing. This is not a lecture. It's not even advice. It's a mirror. A long, silent mirror held up to your mind. So you can finally see what's been blocking your peace. What's been stealing your freedom. And what must be faced if you truly want to be free. These are 20 Stoic truths. Brutal. Unforgiving. But absolutely necessary. Each one is a portal. Not to a better life. But to a clearer one. A stronger one. A free one. If you're ready, we begin now. 1. No one is coming to save you. It's one of the hardest truths to accept. No one is coming to save you. You've been conditioned to wait, to hope, to silently wish that someone, anyone, will notice your pain and pull you out of it. That maybe the right person will appear. The right mentor, the right partner, the right timing. But years pass. People come and go. Opportunities rise and collapse. And the feeling returns. The heaviness. The frustration. The silent question, why hasn't anyone saved me yet? And then it hits you. Because that person is you. That's what the Stoics meant when they talked about radical ownership. Not just responsibility for your actions, but for your life, your direction, your healing, your evolution. Marcus Aurelius didn't wait for the empire to make him wise. He made time to reflect, daily, to take the reins of his own thoughts, to hold himself accountable. You must do the same. You are the author of your thoughts. You are the one who chooses how long the pain lasts. You are the one who decides how the story moves forward. And yes, it's overwhelming. Taking full responsibility for your life means you can't blame your past. You can't blame others. You can't even blame bad luck. But it also means something liberating. You don't have to wait anymore. You don't have to wait for motivation. You don't have to wait for closure. You don't have to wait for someone to validate your worth. You can decide now that your peace begins today. It's not easy. You'll slip. You'll doubt yourself. And that's okay. But never forget. There's a quiet strength in realizing that no one is coming. Because it wakes up the part of you that can. The part of you that's been buried under fear, laziness, distraction, and self-pity. You are the storm you've been waiting for. You are the answer to your own prayer. You are the rescuer, once you stop waiting to be rescued. And in that awakening, your real freedom begins. 2. You suffer more in imagination than in reality. You suffer more in imagination than in reality. That's not just a poetic phrase. It's a warning. From Seneca, one of the most powerful minds in Stoic history. He knew something most people never realize in a lifetime. That the greatest source of human suffering isn't reality itself. It's the mind's reaction to reality. We don't break from what is. We break from what we imagine could be. What we fear might happen. What we think others are thinking. What we assume we can't survive. You've done it. You've sat awake at night, rehearsing disasters that never came. You've lived whole days under the weight of what-ifs. What if they leave? What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What if it all falls apart? And for what? 98% of the time, none of it happens. And yet you paid for it in stress, in anxiety, in emotional exhaustion. You sacrificed the present for a future that never arrived. And the few times disaster did strike, you handled it. You didn't fall apart. You adapted. You survived. So why does your mind still convince you to live inside the worst-case scenario? Because the mind is ancient. It evolved to protect you, not to make you happy, not to give you peace, just to keep you alive. So it projects danger constantly. It imagines betrayal. It expects failure. It prepares you for pain over and over. But here's the truth Stoics teach. Preparation without panic is wisdom. Panic without presence is torment. There's nothing wrong with being prepared. But when you live in a constant state of fear for events that haven't occurred, you become a prisoner to your own imagination. Let's bring it back to Stoic control. Can you control what happens tomorrow? No. Can you control how your mind responds to the unknown? Yes. So train your mind to stop rehearsing suffering. When you catch yourself spiraling, pause. Ask yourself, has this happened yet? Can I do anything about it right now? Or am I feeding my fear just to feel prepared? The Stoic path is not passive. It's mindful. It doesn't say, don't think. It says, think with clarity. Use your imagination to build strength, not torment. And most of all, return to what is. What is actually happening right now. Not in your head. Not in your projections. But here. This moment. Because this moment is usually manageable. It's quieter. It's far less dramatic than the stories you tell yourself. Freedom is found not in escaping your thoughts, but in no longer letting them control you. You suffer more in imagination than in reality. So take back your mind. Because no one else will. 3. People owe you nothing. Not love, not loyalty, not respect. It's a quiet wound we all carry. The silent expectation that people should treat us the way we treat them. That if we love with sincerity, they should love us back. If we stay loyal through storms, they should remain too. If we show them respect, they should never cross our boundaries. But the Stoic truth is this. People owe you nothing. Not love. Not loyalty. Not even basic respect. That hurts, doesn't it? It goes against everything we've been told. That fairness should exist. That decency will be returned. That if we give enough, we'll eventually receive. But Stoicism doesn't coddle illusions. It deals with the reality of human nature. And the reality is people act according to who they are, not according to who you are. You may be kind, thoughtful, selfless, and someone may still betray you, lie to you, disappear when you needed them most. And here's the painful part. They didn't break any contract, because no contract exists. You created expectations. You built stories in your mind. If I show up, they will too. If I'm honest, they won't deceive me. If I love them deeply, they'll never leave. But those were your scripts, not universal laws. And when you hold people to your emotional contracts, you suffer the betrayal of unmet expectations. So what's the Stoic response? Let go of entitlement, not as a way to become cold or bitter, but as a path to inner freedom. When you expect nothing, every act of kindness becomes a gift, every gesture of loyalty becomes a blessing, and every betrayal becomes a teacher. This doesn't mean you tolerate abuse. It doesn't mean you keep giving to those who take endlessly. It means you give from integrity, not attachment. You love because it's your nature to love, not because you're trying to buy their presence. You're loyal because it reflects your values, not because you're trying to earn their commitment. You're kind because it's your default, not because you need validation. You release others from your emotional debts, and in doing so, you set yourself free from disappointment. People don't owe you a return, and the moment you realize that, your suffering starts to dissolve. You stop personalizing their behavior. You stop needing their reaction to justify your effort. You stop making their chaos mean something about you. And suddenly, you're no longer walking around with open wounds. You're walking around with boundaries, with clarity, with quiet strength. So remember, you are not the cause of their inconsistency. You are not the cure for their emotional immaturity. You are not responsible for their lack of loyalty. You are only responsible for one thing: your alignment with who you want to be. And if that means showing love even when it's not returned, so be it. Because that's your power, not your weakness. Let go of what they owe you, and you'll begin to feel the true lightness of peace. For being offended is a choice. What they said was rude. What they did crossed a line. What they implied hit a nerve. And your first instinct? Offense. Anger. A quick emotional fire that says, "How dare they?" But here's the Stoic truth. Being offended is a choice. That might sound insulting at first, especially if you've spent your life reacting to every jab, insult, or subtle disrespect. But it's not about denial. It's about power. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." At first glance, it almost sounds like denial. But in reality, it's discipline. Discipline over the one battlefield that truly matters, your own mind. Because here's what Stoicism understands. When you're offended, it's not because of the words spoken. It's because of what you believe those words mean about you. Someone calls you a failure? You only feel offended if you secretly fear they might be right. Someone mocks your appearance? You only react if your self-worth is tied to their opinion. In other words, it's not what was said, it's what it awakens in you. And that's why this point hurts so much. Because it demands self-examination. It asks you to step out of blame and step into mastery. Stoics don't walk around seeking ways to be numb. They walk around with a shield, built from self-awareness and inner clarity. When you know who you are, you don't need to defend it to strangers. When you're rooted in purpose, you don't get pulled by petty opinions. When you understand your worth, you don't need external approval to feel whole. Now, let's be clear. This isn't a license for others to disrespect you. It's not an excuse to tolerate toxic behavior. But there's a difference between setting boundaries and reacting emotionally to every slight. When you react with offense, you hand over your peace. You say, "Here, you now control how I feel." And just like that, you're no longer in control of your mind. But when you observe without attachment, when you choose to pause before reacting, when you say to yourself, "That's their opinion. It doesn't change who I am," you step into unshakable power. Imagine how free you'd feel if people could say whatever they wanted, and you still remained calm, not because you don't care, but because you've outgrown the need to react. That is what true Stoic presence looks like. Grace under fire, calm under chaos, strength through silence. So the next time you feel the fire of offense rising, ask yourself, is this truly harmful, or is this an invitation to grow? Do I want to give my peace away that easily? Who wins if I react without restraint? You'll start to see the trap. You'll realize most insults are bait, set by people desperate to pull you into their level of disorder. And when you refuse to bite, you rise. You rise above the need to prove, to fight, to explain. You become untouchable, not because you're hardened, but because you're anchored. So no, being offended isn't automatic. It's not a law of nature. It's a mental agreement, one you can cancel at any time. And once you do, you'll feel the weight lift, because no one can shake what you've already accepted, and what you've already outgrown. 5. You're not obligated to explain yourself. You're making progress. You're healing. You're pulling away from what once drained you, and leaning into a quieter, deeper version of yourself. But then comes the pushback. Why are you being distant? Why didn't you say yes like you used to? Why are you changing? And suddenly, you feel cornered, tempted to defend yourself, to explain your silence, to prove your worth, to justify your new standards. But hear this clearly. You are not obligated to explain yourself, not your healing, not your decisions, not your boundaries, not your silence. That's not rudeness. That's clarity. Stoicism teaches us, the more solid your internal compass becomes, the less external validation you need. The more you align with your truth, the less you feel the need to convince others of it. Because here's what most people don't realize. When you explain yourself to people who refuse to understand you, you're not educating them. You're feeding their illusion that they deserve access to your motives. And not everyone does. Not everyone earns the right to your vulnerability. Not everyone deserves an invitation into your why. Think of Marcus Aurelius. Do you imagine the emperor of Rome stopped to explain his inner battles to every critic, every discontent, every voice of opposition? No. Because when you walk with purpose, you don't chase approval. You don't negotiate your direction with those who have no investment in your destination. And this doesn't mean you become cold. It doesn't mean you shut people out of your life with arrogance. It means you recognize your energy as sacred, and your reasoning as personal. You can love someone deeply, and still not owe them an explanation for why you said no. You can care about someone, and still withhold your inner process from their judgment. Because the truth is, most people don't want your explanation to understand you. They want it to control you, to guilt you, to convince you to return to the version of yourself that made them more comfortable. And you're not here to live according to someone else's comfort. You're here to evolve, even if it makes you misunderstood. Silence is not weakness. It is strategy. It is sovereignty. When you stop over-explaining, you begin to hear the sound of your own authority. You begin to realize that approval is fleeting, but alignment is freedom. So, the next time someone demands your reasoning, remember this. I choose what to reveal and to whom. I choose who gets access to my thoughts. I don't owe anyone the story behind my boundary. My peace does not require their permission. You are not a defendant on trial. You are a human being with inner logic. That doesn't need an audience. And if someone walks away because you refuse to explain your healing, let them. That's not a loss. That's a clearing. Because the people meant for your life will feel your growth without needing a transcript. And that's the beauty of it. When you no longer explain yourself to be understood, you finally understand yourself. And that is the foundation of unshakable peace. 6. You are not your past. You look back and you wince. at what you tolerated, at how you behaved, at who you trusted, at what you allowed. And there's a part of you that whispers, "You should have known better. You messed everything up." You'll always carry this with you. But here's what Stoicism offers you. Not a denial of your past, but a complete reorientation to it. Because the truth is, you are not your past. You are not the broken relationship. You are not the impulsive choice. You are not the version of you that didn't know how to cope, or the one that stayed too long. You're not the pain you went through, and you're not even the pain you caused. That version of you? It lived in a different time. It thought differently. It loved differently. It saw the world differently. And yet here you are. Changed. Evolving. Awake. But the mind plays a cruel trick. It ties your worth to what you did, instead of what you're becoming. It loops your worst moments, as if they define your entire character. And if you're not careful, you start carrying the weight of your past, like it's still happening right now. But Epictetus said something powerful. It's not what happens to you, but how you respond to it that matters. The Stoics didn't erase their past. They reclaimed it, not as shame, but as fuel. Every regret, a lesson. Every failure, an invitation to build stronger character. Every betrayal, an opening for deeper discernment. Every mistake, proof that you're growing. Because growth is impossible without error. And yet, here's the key. The past only owns you when you keep feeding it your attention. When you keep revisiting it emotionally. When you speak to yourself as if you're still that old version. When you identify with your lowest moments. You chain yourself to a story that no longer needs to be told. But freedom. Freedom begins the moment you say, "Yes, that was me. But I'm no longer there. And I am no longer that." This is where true Stoic strength comes in. Not just in enduring hardship, but in releasing the self-condemnation that keeps you from peace. You are not your past. You are not the old you. You are not the wound. You are the healer now. And healing isn't pretending it never happened. It's choosing not to be defined by it anymore. Every day, you wake up with a choice. To live from your history, or to live from your growth. And you don't need to erase the past to move on. You just need to stop dragging it into every room you enter. You just need to stop defining your worth by who you were in a moment of weakness. Forgive yourself, not because you deserve to escape the consequences, but because you deserve peace. And because regret doesn't rebuild anything. Only responsibility does. So take the lesson, leave the weight, and walk forward with the clarity that says, "I am not my past. I am what I choose to become now." That is the power of a Stoic mind. To look backward with acceptance, and forward with quiet resolve. 7. Peace comes from discipline, not comfort. Everyone says they want peace. But few are willing to do what it takes to have it. Because real peace doesn't come from escaping effort, from avoiding pressure, from hiding in comfort. Peace is not passive. It's forged. It's earned. It's built through discipline. Comfort is seductive. It whispers, "You've had enough. You don't need to push today. Let someone else carry the weight." It tells you that rest equals peace. That silence means safety. That stillness means success. But a Stoic knows. The most dangerous stillness is the one that comes from avoidance. Because peace isn't what you get from doing nothing. It's what arises when you've faced everything. Marcus Aurelius ruled the largest empire on earth, while journaling quietly each morning about his inner struggles. He didn't have peace because life was easy. He had peace because he disciplined his mind every single day. If you seek tranquility, do less. Or rather, do what's essential. Marcus Aurelius. Discipline isn't about punishment. It's about focus. It's not about rigidity. It's about intentionality. You train your body so it doesn't betray your goals. You train your mind so it doesn't fall into chaos. You train your emotions so you don't react, you respond. That's where peace lives. Peace lives in the man who wakes up early to reflect, who trains even when no one's watching, who builds systems so he doesn't rely on motivation, who says no to distraction, to emotional drama, to unnecessary indulgence. Peace comes from a calendar you respect, from habits that protect your energy, from silence you chose, not silence forced by failure. You want peace? Then hold yourself to a standard that your future self will thank you for. Because comfort in the short term often creates long-term chaos. But discipline in the short term, it buys you long-term clarity. Most people trade peace for pleasure. They scroll to escape. They binge to numb. They avoid conflict to keep the illusion of calm. But that's not peace. That's delay. That's emotional debt. And the Stoics? They knew that freedom doesn't come from comfort. It comes from self-mastery. Every time you choose discipline over ease, you invest in inner calm. Every time you choose the harder right over the easier wrong, you strengthen your soul. True peace is not fragile. It's resilient. Because it's not built on fantasy. It's built on daily action. So if you're restless, distracted, or anxious, don't ask what you need to add. Ask what you need to structure. Where am I letting comfort steal my potential? Where am I choosing short-term ease over long-term peace? Where have I abandoned the systems that made me strong? And then, start again. Not in a rush. Not in perfection. But with discipline. Because in that effort, you'll find something far more powerful than momentary comfort. You'll find peace. The kind that comes when nothing owns you. Not your emotions, not your habits, not your fears. The Stoics didn't seek ease. They sought freedom. And freedom lives on the other side of self-discipline. 8. No one owes you anything, and that's liberating. You've been told to be nice, to do good, to show up, to care. And maybe you did. Maybe you gave your time, your love, your energy, and you expected something. Not necessarily applause, but at least appreciation. Not necessarily payback, but some form of acknowledgement. But here's the Stoic truth. No one owes you anything. Not kindness, not fairness, not loyalty, not even love. And while that may sound bitter, it's not. It's freeing. Because the moment you drop your expectations, you also drop the chain that keeps you bound to disappointment. Marcus Aurelius said, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive." He didn't say, "Think of what everyone else should do for you today." You see, when you live thinking people should treat you a certain way, you hand over your peace. They don't text back, you suffer. They don't thank you, you stew in resentment. They don't show up for you, and your day is ruined. But here's the power shift. When you expect nothing, everything becomes a gift. A returned favor, a blessing, a kind word, a bonus. Respect, earned, not owed. The Stoic man doesn't act out of desire for return. He acts out of principle. He gives because giving is who he is, not because someone is watching. Epictetus said, "Don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do, and you will go on well." Meaning what? Stop resisting reality. Stop expecting it to mirror your effort. Stop confusing your value with someone else's recognition of it. No one owes you consistency. No one owes you closure. No one owes you forgiveness. It hurts when they don't give it, yes. But your life doesn't pause until they do. You move anyway. You evolve anyway. You love again anyway. Because you weren't born to collect debts from others. You were born to liberate yourself from them. This is the Stoic shield. I gave what I chose. I expected nothing in return. I act by my code. I need no repayment. And ironically, when you live like this, people respect you more. Because your value doesn't feel needy. Your strength doesn't demand validation. You don't become a black hole of emotional IOUs. You become full in yourself. Whole. Untouched by the whims of others. So remember this. You don't give to get. You give because you're not empty. You're not owed love. But you can be love. You're not owed peace. But you can become peace. You're not owed respect. But you can command it through action, not demand. The more you detach from what others should do, the more power you reclaim. You walk lighter. You wait for no one. You live full, on your own terms. That's not cold. That's stoic. That's freedom. 9. Attention is a currency. Don't spend it on garbage. Imagine this. Every morning you're handed a limited amount of energy. Mental fuel. Emotional bandwidth. And how you spend it shapes your reality. Most people don't get that. They wake up and the first thing they do? Open their phone. Scroll through someone else's life. Absorb negativity, gossip, chaos. Before they even brush their teeth. They've already wasted half their attention. But the Stoic man knows. Attention is a currency. More precious than money. More limited than time. Because once you give it, you don't get it back. Seneca said, "Life is long if you know how to use it. Not exist. Not survive. But use it. Your attention is your power. It's how you vote with your mind. And every time you spend it on nonsense, you cast a vote for a lesser version of yourself. Ask yourself, what do you watch when no one's watching? What do you read when you're bored? What kind of people have rented space inside your head, for free? You see, it's not just social media that's costing you peace. It's every argument that didn't deserve your energy. Every random opinion that derailed your focus. Every shallow conversation that pulled you away from purpose. You think these things are harmless distractions. But they are spiritual parasites. Little things that slowly drain your potential. Little voices that drown out your own. Little entertainments that rob you of inner silence. Here's what Stoicism teaches. Guard your gates. Not every voice deserves to be heard. Not every news headline deserves your outrage. Not every notification deserves your reaction. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Translation: You choose what enters your mind. You choose what stays. You choose who rents your attention. And when you stop being careless with it, your life sharpens. You begin to notice things. The stillness around you. The clarity within you. The strength of not reacting. You become immune to noise. Because you've trained yourself to hear only what matters. The Stoic man doesn't follow the loudest voice. He follows the most intentional one. He unfollows drama. He unsubscribes from pity. He mutes nonsense. Why? Because every minute wasted on the meaningless is a minute stolen from greatness. You want focus? Then filter. You want clarity? Then cut the clutter. You want peace? Then practice silence on purpose. Epictetus once said, "If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Foolish, why? Because you're not watching what they watch, not obsessing over what they obsess about, not giving your mind to the chaos they think is normal. And in return, you gain what they never will: focus, depth, self-direction. So here's the truth. You become what you repeatedly give your attention to. Give it to envy? You rot. Give it to fear? You shrink. Give it to virtue? You rise. Your attention is your soul's investment. Spend it where it grows you. You don't owe anyone your reaction. You don't need to stay informed about every meaningless thing. You don't need to be reachable all the time. You need discipline. Discipline to choose what enters your mental temple. Discipline to build a mind so clean, so sharp, so powerful, that no garbage sticks to it. In this world of noise, protect your peace like your life depends on it, because it does. 10. People will test you. Pass without reacting. If you walk this world with quiet strength, you will be tested. Make no mistake. People will poke you to see if you flinch. They will insult you just to watch your face change. They will provoke you to see if they still control your peace. And the moment you react, they win. Not because their words were true, but because they moved you. Here's what most never understand. The test isn't about them. It's about you. They want to see if you're truly unshakable, or just pretending. Because the calm man is a mystery, and insecure people hate mysteries. They hate what they can't influence. So they press. They prod. They push your buttons. But here's the Stoic answer. Remove the buttons. Marcus Aurelius said, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." It's not just philosophy. It's war strategy. People expect you to react. When you don't, they lose their grip. And when you master non-reaction, you shift the entire power dynamic. The one who reacts is controlled. The one who observes controls. And this doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're dangerous, in the most silent way. You don't yell. You don't argue. You don't chase. You witness. Because you know. Their games aren't worth your energy. Their words aren't worth your emotions. Their noise isn't worth your peace. Understand this. Some people crave drama like oxygen. And your reaction is the match that lights their fire. They don't want resolution. They want reaction. So, give them nothing. Let your silence echo louder than their volume. Let your stillness confuse them. Let your lack of interest humble them. Because here's the Stoic mastery. Peace isn't passive. It's a weapon. Your calmness under pressure? That's control. Your decision not to argue? That's power. Your ability to walk away without a word? That's victory. Seneca said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Which means, don't become petty just because someone is petty. Don't become reactive just because someone wants a show. Don't abandon your peace just to teach someone a lesson. You don't need to win the moment. You need to win your mind. Remember, a lion doesn't turn when small dogs bark. A mountain isn't shaken by wind. And a Stoic man isn't moved by cheap provocations. So next time they test you, don't flinch. Don't fight. Don't fold. Pass the test without reacting. Because the strongest stance is stillness. 11. Respect is earned when you expect less. You lose respect the moment you start demanding it, and you gain it the moment you no longer need it. That's the paradox of true power. People chase validation like it's air, begging to be seen, longing to be liked, craving to be noticed. But here's a Stoic truth that cuts deep. The more you need from others, the less they value you. The less you chase respect, the more it follows you. Silently, naturally, without you asking for it. You don't demand respect by raising your voice. You command it by raising your standards. Seneca said, "He who is brave is free," and freedom starts with this. Let go of your expectations of how others should treat you. Because the world doesn't owe you courtesy, and people are not obligated to honor you. When you drop the expectation, you rise in dignity. Think about it. You walk into a room, not needing approval, not adjusting who you are, not bending your truth to fit theirs. That's power. You listen more than you speak. You observe more than you explain. You act without permission, and you don't flinch if they misunderstand you. Why? Because you've traded the need for validation for the strength of self-respect. Here's the reality. The man who stands tall without applause is the man they'll eventually applaud. But the man who demands respect, he's already beneath it. Because respect is not given to the loudest voice. It's given to the calm presence, the grounded spirit, the one who doesn't chase admiration, but quietly becomes someone worth admiring. This is why the Stoic man wins. He leads himself. He holds himself to his own code. He keeps promises no one else sees. And when others disrespect him, he doesn't beg for better treatment. He simply disengages, not out of pride, but out of principle. Because respect isn't begged for. It's mirrored. If they don't offer it, you don't fight them. You fade out. You rise above. Remember this. The tree does not beg the sun to shine. It grows with or without approval. And so should you. You don't need everyone's respect. You just need to stop needing it. And in that moment of mental freedom, you become untouchable. Not because the world changed, but because you did. 12. Most people are not deep enough for your silence. Your silence disturbs people more than your words ever could. Why? Because silence reveals. It reveals the shallowness of their thoughts. It exposes the weakness of their ego. And most of all, it forces them to face themselves. You see, most people are not uncomfortable around you. They're uncomfortable around the version of themselves that your silence brings to light. Your calmness unsettles them. Your non-reactivity challenges their chaos. Your refusal to fill every space with noise? It makes them squirm. But here's the truth that hits hardest. Not everyone deserves to hear your voice. Not everyone is equipped to understand your depth. And silence? It's the shield of the strong. The sanctuary of the Stoic. The filter that separates the reactive from the reflective. Epictetus taught that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. But silence is more than listening. It's presence. It's control. It's you standing in full power without performance. People will say, "Why are you so quiet? What's wrong? Speak up." But understand this. They're not asking out of care. They're asking because your stillness makes them face a part of themselves they usually run from. Your silence is a mirror. And most people can't handle their reflection. So they'll poke at you, provoke you, try to draw you out. Because your restraint reminds them of their lack of it. They live loud because they fear what they'd hear in the quiet. They speak endlessly because their identity is fragile. But you've found clarity in the stillness. You've learned that not every silence must be broken. Not every thought needs a voice. Not every fool deserves a response. This is the mark of a Stoic. He speaks when it matters. He listens with intensity. And when silence speaks louder than words, he lets it. Here's what they'll never understand. Your silence is not weakness. It's a signal that you're no longer wasting energy, that your time is sacred, that your emotions are not up for auction. So when you go silent, let them guess. Let them feel the void. Let them wonder what version of themselves made you choose quiet over conversation. Because your silence? It's not the absence of power. It's the ultimate display of it. 13. Attachment is the enemy of clarity. If there's one invisible force that keeps most people enslaved, it's attachment. Attachment to how things should be, to who people should become, to outcomes that never materialized. And worst of all, attachment to illusions. The Stoics taught us to see things as they are, not as we wish them to be. But attachment? It clouds vision. It replaces reality with expectation. It blinds us to the truth unfolding right in front of us. Marcus Aurelius warned, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. But when you're attached, you forfeit that power. You start clinging to people who drain you, to identities that no longer serve you, to comfort zones that become cages. Why? Because attachment makes pain feel like purpose. We confuse suffering with loyalty. We romanticize staying stuck because it's familiar. But Stoicism demands brutal clarity. It says, let go, not because you don't care, but because your peace is more important than your preference. It says, detach, not from life, but from illusion, from the belief that your happiness must come from something outside yourself. Understand this. What you're attached to controls you. What you can't walk away from owns you. This includes relationships, titles, old dreams, painful memories. The Stoic doesn't numb himself to love, ambition, or desire. He simply doesn't worship them. He loves without clinging, works without ego, lives without fear of loss, because he knows nothing external is truly his, not even his own body. Everything can be taken, except one thing, his inner freedom. You don't free yourself by adding more. You free yourself by letting go of what was never meant to stay. So next time your heart clenches at the thought of release, ask yourself this: am I holding on, or am I being held back? True clarity comes not when you control everything, but when nothing controls you. You've just heard 13 Stoic truths. Not soft words to comfort you, but hard truths to awaken you. Each one a blade, not to wound you, but to cut through the noise that's been keeping you asleep. You see, Stoicism isn't about pretending to feel nothing. It's about choosing what deserves to touch your soul. It's about moving through life with your eyes open, your feet grounded, and your heart anchored in reality, not illusion. Most people will reject these truths because they require too much reflection, too much responsibility, too much letting go of what their ego still clings to. But you're here because you're different. You're ready to stop blaming, to stop reacting, to stop waiting for the world to give you permission to be free. And this is where real strength begins. Not in conquering others, but in mastering yourself. Not in having everything, but in needing less. Not in being loud, but in walking with quiet power. So what will you do with these truths? Will you ignore them, like most do? Or will you let them reshape you, sharpen you, free you? Because the Stoic path is not for the faint of heart, but for those who walk it Even the pain becomes peace. Even the silence becomes strength. And even the darkest truths lead to the brightest freedom. Remember this. You were never meant to live with chains around your soul. You were meant to rise, to walk unburdened, to face the world not with fear, but with fire. This is your path. This is your power. And now it begins.